Greetings, everyone. Yo, Duki. Yeah, giving a minute for the translators to set up. Those who ask the question, only a few, but you do. What's the schedule of the classes? Like, is it every day at 11, by 11? Not the weekends, but Saturday. What's the official thing? The official schedule is supposed to be once per week or twice. That's what is agreed. It is only because of the quarantine situation around the world that I teach almost every day, sometimes twice a day. But it will come back to once a week, and I only say a few days in advance all the time because I'm me. I feel causality. I follow the stream of events. So my students, they tend to put themselves a reminder every 3 day, check on Maha's page to see if there's a class. Okay, because there's no warning, basically, just a few days or sometimes hours before. If this is important and I see that it is productive, I will plan an official schedule, but that is still to see. Nonetheless, we have time together. Good. Today we study air and this primordial creative process of siddhi-tattvas, perfection of the element in a state of being. Let's say it immediately, prana vayu. The mantra for this one is prana vayu. That is the siddhi to contemplate and meditate. Prana is a resource in the air, and not exclusive to air, but mostly in air. And vayu is wind or convection. So air in terms of resource and in terms of an event. Pranavayu. With earth, everything appeared out of nothing. With fire, it radiated heat, light, and whatnot. Then space happened because it was occupied by consciousness, spirit force. And then the planes were also made. That's what we call the heavens. With water, all of this became cohesive. It worked together. And now that the machinery makes sense, it moves. Air is a movement, and the resource themselves that move. Okay? So movement as the object experiencing it, or the event itself, the movement. Pranavayu. So we contemplate inside. The heart pumping, the blood seems to be associated to water. but that's the object. The movement is air. Well, it's the air element in a philosophical way. So prana vayu, the air in your lungs, and your lungs pumping, it becomes the resource of prana in your blood. And the movement of the blood is one of those convections. You also have inside a lymphatic system. You have the movement of ATP that carries energy. Every cell has its own movement, its own causality, and in a way, its own karma. There's a lot of prana vayu inside. It's easy to imagine the immense prana vayu systems, the weather system, the flow of rivers. Let's push it even further. The planet around the sun in the galaxy somewhere in its cluster, and everything moving, and then the galaxies and the supernovas together. Pranavayu. At an infinitely small scale, a convection and movements. At an extremely grand scale, the convection and the movement. And these movements carry resources, pranavayu. Pranavayu. It seems to be more in tune with the karmic plane of causality. Yes. As an interesting parenthesis, Earth is more in tune with the first plane of the Creator, fire more in tune with the second plane of Vishnu, and heaven's spirit with the third plane of Shiva, and the localizing of consciousness on the fourth plane with water, and then the karmic plane more in tune with the air. Yes, it follows like that. Okay, but it's just another reference. These elements exist everywhere on all planes. It's just a philosophical correspondence. One more. Good. We will go into the integration of our arrogance against the air principles. Go into a Visantara attitude. I'm ready to admit to myself what I can learn, what I can grow from. It's time to be honest. It's time to embrace the possibilities. Air is mostly about what happens. Convection and movement is about events. Our arrogance against the air is when we disagree with what is happening. That, of course, is just the surface. When the events are as they are, and you just refuse, no, I don't care, I don't want that. But it's often too late. It usually does not change much. In terms of prudence and justice, you would do what is socially legal to affect the situation. to protect your rights and your property. But in most cases, what happens is just what happens. It's a lover going away. It's more expenses or less funds. It's the comments that you hear about you. It is the restaurant that the other chose to go. Can be very little. Sometimes it's big. And we just get stuck. No, I don't want that. Like if it was going to change something. That is like the child in the supermarket crashing down on a temper tantrum, et berrinche. Je me souviens plus comment on dit en français. It's a crisis, and you say, la 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 la, don't want that, hoping for life to change because we complain about it. So there's the unconscious mechanics in the subconscious, the the subconscious reflex. That was redundant, sorry. It thinks that by dramatizing, it will be as we want. Just complain, react, refuse, and deny. Here again, when we speak of arrogance, the three denials are important to observe: pride, shame, and fear. Some of these reactions, these temper tantrums we have, these little dramas, they're easy to see. Ah, I don't care, I don't want that. But the arrogance is much deeper. When we complain, instead of finding a creative solution, when we just complain, refuse, we can even seem like we're using constructive solution, but inside the emotional charge is just a complaint, a drama, anger, disappointment, and it refuses the truth. It refuses facts. So we can pretend that everything is fine and we're going to find a solution, but the emotional charge that makes us lose our sense of peace when the events are not conform to what we want. It is our dormant ego that believes that he is superior to the stream of karma in the universe. It is our little human that thinks for a moment, when causality is not what I want, I'll just beat the crap out of it. I'll just break his face until karma accepts. Finding productive solution is good. Sometimes we do, sometimes we just have a temper tantrum. We dramatize. No, that's not what I want. But the emotional charge that rises, regardless if we're wise or not about it, that emotional charge is how you feel more important than huge convictions of events in the universe, even in your local little universe. A superiority trip. It's insane. It's okay. It's what an ego does, right? Like if you felt powerful enough to go against streaming forces 1,000 times larger than you. Like a child who hopes to win against his parents by crying and shouting on the floor of the supermarket to get the candy. Sometimes the parents are weak, but most parents know this is the time to teach them discipline. Now you get up, you don't always have what you want, and you move forward. Or else I'm gone. Or else the consequences are worst. But we are not like this. We are not always good parents to ourselves as adults. We give ourselves chances and time to complain. Of course, if you are sad, the sadness is strong. But the time spent in drama about it, that's a choice. Most of the time, an unconscious choice. But the choice is made. It's one of those elections that are done inside without consulting your higher mind. It just anger rises, disappointment is strong. Let's do a scene silently in our mind. Let's do a scene. It just fights. It just resists. When an emotional reaction hurts, it does hurt. But the reaction on top of it, that's our choice. We can go back to the typical question: how much time do you spend in drama before deciding to do personal growth? Or if you won't do personal growth now, sometimes it's not appropriate. To have wisdom, forgiveness, compassion, to have your virtues lead your behavior instead of your berrinche, your temper tantrum, okay, your little crisis of anger. How much time does it take for your soul to take charge? Someone told me yesterday I was certain to be so advanced spiritually. And then I listened to your online classes and I realized how much I still have to go. I mean, how much work there is to do. This is typical. We learn how to be holy when everything is fine, when everyone is bowing with gratitude and compassion to everyone. Namaste, Kirtanyarta, Mahadev, and everyone is so happy to see everyone. The hugs when you're not in quarantine. And it's so easy to think, wow, I can be forgiving. I can be compassionate. I can be so kind when nothing is wrong. Where's your virtuous attitude when a volcano explodes inside? When you react against causality, when you refuse events, things that are happening, I refuse it. It can be to refuse the presence of someone, a decision from your government, people dying, or the cards you were dealt in a situation, either an actual card game or at work. It's a metaphor. It is not so obvious to pretend being a saint when you forget that you have tools like personal growth and Rishinaya, the holy way. It's easy to forget. Ignorance takes over. It is our arrogance against causality, against events. The flow and stream of things that are set in motion in the universe. So, how holy are we in imperfect times? How holy are we while a profound disappointment is taking over our emotional system? Are you humbly embracing the wave, losing, hurting, and still acting in compassion? It's a goal to achieve. One confusion we have with compassion is we think it's a feeling. Oh, I feel so much compassion. That's a mistake. The feeling is love, gratitude, for example. Okay. Compassion is a mechanics, a behavior. Actions you pose are compassionate or not. Compassion is what I do. Does it produce happiness or does it alleviate suffering? That's compassion. To encourage happiness or alleviate suffering. It's events that has a result. So feeling compassion is an illusion. What you feel when you feel compassion is the side effect of compassionate actions. Oh, I feel so much compassion. What you are feeling is the lower suffering, higher happiness and love that rise from your compassionate behaviors. So when you say, I feel compassion to someone, I understand it is an acceptable way to say it. But if you believe that, when your great explosion of disappointment will rise, it will take all the space in your heart. You will not be able to feel compassion. So if you identify compassion to a feeling, the behavioral process will stop. You can be in a great crisis of disappointment, a heartbreak, bad news coming in, and be in charge of accepting the pain while it is still strong. And your behavior will be one that diminishes suffering and augments happiness for others until it can be done to yourself again. It should be done to yourself immediately also. If you consider that facing your trials inside is also part of being compassionate to you. So, having the humble attitude or the practicing of Visantara during a crisis, during a revelation of suffering, when it rises, when it is strong, the attitude to go, I'll have to take care of that. I have to stay in charge, embrace it. It hurts. It hurts. What must I mourn? What is the lesson? That is a compassionate action, even though you do not feel compassion. Because compassion is an attitude and it sets in motion events for the desired side effect of feeling compassion afterwards. So, if for you compassion is only a feeling, You will not be compassionate during the worst times. And that means you're arrogant against the air. That means you're dramatizing. That when you are compassionate while everything is perfect, it's just a beautiful facade. It's how to start, of course. You should practice being compassionate. You should practice acting well when everything is fine, when you feel good. This is where you practice. But it matters when you're about to walk in hell and you see it happening and you choose this severity with yourself. I will remain kind, but I will be kind to myself also and care for my suffering. I will be forgiving, and I will not use this to justify injustice. I will not let others abuse of me, but I will forgive. They are also humans in the jungle, suffering, doing their best, with their arrogance. But only my arrogance matters now. So am I dramatic? The arrogance against the air is also about the flow of information and what we know about ourselves. If we say, I am a good person, I'm a compassionate person, I'm a forgiving person, and you only have your image of yourself in your best moments, are you really honestly telling yourself the truth about who you are? The truth is, of course you are a kind person. Of course you are a wise person when everything is fine. Yes, you do have those virtues. You have done personal growth and it worked. But you also have the vicious part of the animal reflexes. You just have to be honest with yourself. Yes, I lose my freedom. My anger takes over. I complain. I become aggressive with movements or in my feelings or silently in my mind without telling anyone. And that affects my way of being. Therefore, it cuts down on the quality of your virtuous actions, or it simply eliminates them. No more virtue. That's just me at war with the universe. I'm going to beat the shit out of the universe until it agrees with me again. We think we are so powerful, superior to everything. At least embrace it. At least be honest. Cultivate humility. What am I during the bad news? When it's not too big, when it's not too hard, but bad news. There's a little complaining drama arise. Now, how am I during the more profound crisis? How am I with the loss of money, the loss of a lover, the loss of my image in front of society? How am I with the loss of my youth as I age over the decades? How am I when I have to mourn? Do I mourn? What I'm losing anyway? How am I in those hard times? It's just about being honest to oneself. How do I really behave? What is the power in charge inside me? Layer after layer of purgatory and hell inside my subconscious mind. It's just about being honest and admitting it. First thing, embrace it. You will work on it. You will do your personal growth. It will give results. Do not worry. But you have to start with admitting to yourself, this is how I am now. And even then, that little arrogant bitch inside, you will say, I admit I'm like that. And it will say, and fuck the world about it. You know, okay, I admit I'm like that. Whatever. We're not talking about admitting like if you fail the combat and we're disappointed. Okay, I admit it, I'm like that. Fuck them if they don't love me. That is not humble. That's trying to admit, still doing a temper tantrum about who you are, still dramatizing. So we're talking about Visantara, admitting who we are without a reaction about it. To simply embrace, I am like this and that when this or that event happened. This is my level of complaining to God. Why are you doing this to me? And there is no God doing anything to you. Karma is streaming. Events are happening. That's that. Karma is not evil. Karma is just cause and effect flowing. So even the Visantara attitude, even the humble admitting of what we are, we have to practice doing this without a reaction about it or against it. And that too will take time and practice. Did you ever say that to yourself? Screw what people think of me. To hell with them. You think that you don't care what people think, but you needed a combat about them, projection. You needed to combat or to comment others. Doesn't matter what they feel. Doesn't matter what they think about me. This is not honestly finding yourself. Truly not engaging in what other people think has nothing to do with others. The comment would be more simple, like, I am where I am, and I'm doing my best with what I have. It will work. And then there's no reaction about screw them if they don't like me. You know, this is still a lie to ourselves. We're not really at peace here. If you want to embrace yourself, it has nothing to do with I don't care what they think about me. It is very simple. It's about me. I want to just embrace me. And people think stuff about me, okay. I mean, it's still what I want to embrace. That's what matters. And there's no battle or desire to insult others, like, screw them what they think. The moment you have that tiny insult towards the others, you are not really honest with yourself. That's a lot of information for pranavayu. Huh? It's the events as they happen physically, but it's the streams of karma. It's also the emotional convection inside. It's the movements in the mind, all these things about the reaction I just spoke about. It is on every plane, but the lower the plane, the more we have arrogance about it. So, mental, emotional, animal, we have a lot of arrogance. Mass is just mass. But on the mental, emotional, and animal level, as a metaphor, the head, the heart, and the guts. That's just a metaphor. Good. So that was a nice study of our arrogance against pranavayu, against the air, and everything it represents, philosophically speaking. Let's do a deep breath. Now let's do a vocal breath. And start releasing the deep practice, relaxing it. That was the initiation. This is how you learn. Let's do another vocal breath. I will recommend that you rewatch those videos if they help to keep doing Visantara on it, the deep, profound, embracing, humble of various aspects of arrogance to know ourselves and to build trust with yourself, to know you can make it, to believe you can achieve it. All right? Relax into it. Prana vayu. Let's augment the efficiency of that. Nefesh Gagalim Vishemesh Malkut. Initiation of Prana vayu to everyone who is with me in this class. And some radiance afterwards when you watch the video. Prana vayu. Prana vayu. Your mala, those who have it, those who don't, you recite it simply as long as we are. Practice accepting everything as it happens. And if it goes against your desires, you allow the waves of suffering to rise. What must I mourn to find peace again? And instead, in life now, instead of going through experiences, you practice letting experiences go through you. And you live and learn through that. It's an objective to achieve. It takes time, humility, forgiveness, mourning. It takes time, personal growth. Just let it flow, let it happen. As we do the mala, you focus on that. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Feel small convection systems inside physical, animal, emotional, mental, dharma, karma, consciousness, and into the oneness of all streaming phenomena. Pranavayu, the local and the immense convection systems on all levels. Let me find out what it is. Show me. And I make myself available to discovery. Pranavayu, 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 pranavayu. Softly breathe into it. Open yourself to the flow of causality, how it affects all planes. Choose to be humble, strong, and powerful, but humble. Be dedicated to your personal growth. Be dedicated to what you can learn. Study Garishinaya, the holy path. There are many classes about that on my YouTube, the YouTube of Shivagam, There are teachers of the Maharya tradition ready to teach this live. It would be great if someone would give classes on Vrishnaya, because this is also very useful. And yes, I heard some of you say, but why don't you do it, Maha? I will, one thing at a time. I have other plans. Wisdom I like to teach. We will have a 15-minute break, a good long break of 15 minutes. To relax into this. And at my 12 midday, in 15 minutes, we will just do a small review of the 5 elements, one after the other. Not in the study of its arrogance, for that you have the past videos. Just the refreshing of the constructive feelings, the resource, the philosophy of it. See you in a few minutes.